America has just executed one of the largest confiscations in history. This is over $12 billion. And I think the timing of this is very, very interesting for multiple reasons. The first is, let's not forget the fact that Donald Trump and Keir Starmer, the head of the UK, just recently signed a crypto task force. And this is the same UK government that just stole 61,000 Bitcoin or $7 billion from a Chinese national only 2 weeks ago. And I think the other reason why this is very, very timing is the fact that we've waited nearly 400 days for a strategic Bitcoin reserve to finally be announced. But we're seeing 120,000 Bitcoin seized today, on the same day that this piece of news is circulating, surrounding Donald Trump being one of the largest Bitcoin holders in the world, reportedly holding nearly $1 billion in Bitcoin himself. We've got a lot of dots to connect today. Let's start this rabbit hole with this video of Scott Bessent that I want you guys to once again just remember what the Treasury of the Secretary of America is advocating for when he was asked about gold in a recent interview.
Gold holding. I doubt we're going to revalue it, but we are going to keep it there, again, as a store of value for the American people. We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
So the big words there for you guys that I want you guys to continue to be aware of is Scott Bessent's confiscated assets plan. He said very clearly in that interview from a couple of weeks ago, they're not going to be buying any more Bitcoin, but they will continue to confiscate assets and add that to their strategic Bitcoin reserve. And again, like I mentioned in that introduction, Donald Trump just recently, literally today, hours ago, was reported to be holding $1 billion in Bitcoin. Let's break that down because I think that's a little bit interesting when we start to consider all of the shenanigans that was going on just a couple of days ago with that flash crash. Remember, Donald Trump tweeted 100% tariffs on China, and then 1 minute before that tweet, we saw that whale accumulate a massive multi-$100 million short position in Bitcoin. And now Monday, we see this come out. Donald Trump reportedly sitting on $870 million of Bitcoin. What is going on? Is this the reason why we are still waiting for some sort of a strategic Bitcoin reserve to actually come to fruition? Let's not forget, this executive order was signed in March 6th, earlier this year. This is about 6 to 7 months ago. And we're still waiting for America to buy Bitcoin, and they haven't. They've seemingly fumbled the ball and allowed our adversaries to continue accumulating Bitcoin. Again, this is the list of the largest government holders of Bitcoin around the world. The USA, based on our economic domination, we should have way more Bitcoin than any other country around the world. But we've kind of been left fumbling the ball, so to say. I think there could be some clues here. I don't know why Donald Trump is 1 minute shaking Keir Starmer's hand here, recently creating that crypto task force. And now, 3 weeks after that task force, we have America engaging in a massive confiscation. Let's actually, before I come back to the UK angle, because there's an angle here that I think is interesting, let's actually break down what happened today. So for anyone who might have missed the news, this was an article published on the United States Attorney's Office. We can see here the chairman of Prince Group has been indicted for operating forced labor scams, and cryptocurrency fraud scheme was involved in this. So let's break it down. The U.S. Attorney's Office has filed today a civil forfeiture complaint for approximately 127,271 Bitcoin. This is worth $15 billion today. It's going to be worth a lot more in the future. And I think it kind of forces us to ask the question, why are we seeing these left field? Again, this came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting this to happen. Why are we seeing this now? Why are we seeing $12 billion of Bitcoin seemingly added to America's strategic Bitcoin reserve in the form of a confiscation? Why are they not buying Bitcoin? Again, I like to take let's call it the positive, more optimistic take. Maybe the reason why America hasn't announced buys of Bitcoin is because they plan to do more confiscations. And again, I think in the title, I asked the question, are you next? America's been very transparent about the fact that, look, we're not going to buy any more. Maybe they're just going to start confiscating Bitcoin off individuals, or the more likely case, the largest companies or the largest exchanges who have the most Bitcoin holdings. I've got a video planned for you guys on that topic in the not too distant future. I won't dive into it today. Make sure you subscribe so you are notified when I drop that deep dive, because that is an interesting rabbit hole. I don't have time for that today. I want to quickly whip through the news, try to save you guys a ton of time. Because again, I think the most interesting angle here is this one right here. So Zach XBT, is known for doing some of the best deep dives in the space. And he says today on Twitter, what's most interesting is wallet addresses listed in the US government's seizure previously were named in a milky, sad report 2 years ago for having vulnerable private keys. And now the US government says that they have custody of them. Don't you think that is just very interesting? Again, I'm not going to dive into that in a lot of detail today. All I'm going to say is I think this is a sign that the economic cold battle is escalating. Because look at this. The US confiscated these Bitcoin from a Chinese national, Shen Zi. Isn't that ringing a lot of alarm bells for you guys? Doesn't that remind you about what the UK just did recently? Again, 2 weeks ago, they seized $7 billion from this Chinese lady. I think there's some 4D chess going on here. I think there's a lot more to these stories, especially considering the timings, than meets the eye. Okay, we have some interesting data here to look at regarding the bull run in a moment, because let's not forget that massive whale who seemingly predicted the exact moment that we were going to see that flash crash. A lot of people were scared yesterday as they reopened their shorts. But it looks as if, based off what Arkham Intelligence is saying, it looks as if they just closed those shorts. I want to get into those in a moment. But before we do, I want to once again remind you, if governments are confiscating Bitcoin, I think the case for owning Bitcoin could never be more clear and more obvious. We now have governments, I think, engaging in a little bit of 4D chess, outright confiscating Bitcoin. Again, what's the smartest way to accumulate Bitcoin? It's, of course, mining Bitcoin. This is the best way you can get your hands on Bitcoin privately. And again, I think the best place for you guys to learn more about mining is Blockware. They not only have hosted Bitcoin mining solutions, but you can buy the mining rigs directly from them. And when you do, don't forget, you can capture the accelerated depreciation on Bitcoin mining servers. Anyone in America can now write off 100% of the costs of their Bitcoin mining hardware in a single tax year. So take advantage of that. Once again, once you've mined your Bitcoin, I always encourage you guys to secure your Bitcoin the way they should be secured, and that is in hardware wallets. Again, Trezor is going to give you 5% off any Bitcoin hardware wallet you buy from them, and Ledger is going to give you $10 of free Bitcoin for any Bitcoin hardware wallet you buy from them. Again, I always tell you what is the most important thing about Bitcoin. waiting for the correct answer in the chat. It is, of course, taking self-custody. I think governments are showing that they're coming, and unless you got Bitcoin in one of these, in a hardware wallet, I question whether you even own it. Now, let's talk a little bit more about where we are in this bull run, because I think the confiscations and the timing of both of these confiscations, I think, is yet another interesting sign. Again, if we are about to enter another bull run, I'd be confiscating 127,000 Bitcoin if I were a government. And all of the stars here are starting to align. Things are starting to get really interesting. Let's not forget, I want to quickly whip through this. We now have that massive whale who had a $500 million short position opened yesterday. They have now fully closed their position. A lot of people were thinking, oh, no, then we're going to see a massive flash crash. This whale knows more than the rest of us. Be careful, be cautious. Well, it hasn't come. They've closed their entire position. I think this is super interesting. I think this is maybe just another sign that we just got wrecked. Well, I didn't get wrecked, and I hope you guys didn't get wrecked, but a lot of the people trading crypto with leverage on an exchange got wrecked last Friday, and Trump very quickly walked back his 100% tariff claims on President Xi relatively quickly. Very, very quickly, actually. So again, I think this is a great meme. Look at this. This is brilliant. Young Barron and Donald at the computer. And now let's not forget, Barron's got I think it's a $90 million net worth. Was it $80 million net worth last time I checked? Again, how's a young chap like that built up that type of net worth? I don't know. Just a question for you guys to consider. I will continue to remind you guys, be very careful out there. There's to-in and throw-in, and I think you're going to continue to see narrative campaigns online. That's, I think, is very interesting. Let's not forget, Donald Trump tweeted Friday, 100% taxes. Then on Saturday, he came out and he walked it back. He said, oh, whoa. President Xi wants the best for his country. I want the best for America. I might have gotten ahead of myself. Completely walked back what he said on Friday. And now today, he's come out, engaged in another little bit of an attack. I believe that China purposefully not buying our soybeans. This is a hostile economic attack. Again, who knows? Maybe he walks out tomorrow and he says, oh, I take it back. Maybe this is why the shorts were withdrawn. Because this tweet on Truth Social didn't create the crash that they were hoping to create. Again, this is all just speculation. I have no idea what's going on, but the one thing I am certain of is that people will be coming for your Bitcoin. Whether it's Donald Trump's tweets, whether it's more market manipulation, whether it's Binance playing funny buggers over there at one of the biggest exchanges in the world. The only safe position that you guys should be in is self-custodied Bitcoin. I always tell you guys, look after your precious Bitcoin like it is worth $1 million a coin, because that is where we are going eventually. It is only a matter of time. Again, I'll remind you guys, never sell your Bitcoin. If you're even considering selling Bitcoin for half a second, I would encourage you, rethink that decision. You could end up paying a lot of taxes if you sell your Bitcoin. I think the best way to unlock your liquidity of Bitcoin is to borrow against it. Again, I get it. Most companies are scams. Most borrowing companies are shady little Schrodinger's cats. Okay, they don't actually tell you where your yield is coming from. That's why I like the Bitcoin peer-to-peer marketplace that Firefish has created. I've talked about Firefish for ages. I think they're a great company. Very transparent. They have a borrowing section. They have an investing section on their platform. It literally shows you where the yield is coming from. It's coming from the suckers parking USDC and stable coins on the platform, trying to get a 10% yield. They think they're winning. These fiat bros. They're not, because they're not holding Bitcoin. Again, if you do want to borrow against your Bitcoin with Firefish, they're going to give you 30% off if you use a promo code Luke. And considering some of the charts that I've been seeing recently, you might have to start thinking about what you're going to do with a 10x higher net worth, because it looks as if, again, not financial advice, but it looks as if the next leg of this Bitcoin bull run is about to rip. As you can see, we have been slowly but steadily climbing. This is what you see in the first year of the bull run. The next year of the bull run gets absolutely wild. This is when we really start to see the parabolas come in. And I think we're October. We're 6 to 7% away from all-time highs. We're seeing the money printers about to be turned on. I want to get into what Jerome Powell's doing in a moment here, but let's not forget, I love this tweet here from Joe Consorti. Bitcoin is up 750% over the last 3 years as the Fed tightened monetary conditions. The balance sheet has shrunk from 9 trillion to 6.5 trillion, and the federal funds rates have risen from 0.25% to 5.5% at their peak, and we're still at 4.25% today. A lot of people are saying, oh, the Fed's cutting interest rates. Well, they haven't cut that far. They really haven't cut that far. And when you start thinking about it, they've got a long way to go down if they do want to turn those money printers on in a big way. Now, what I found really interesting was the Fed came out today and they essentially said that they could end QT in the coming months. Why is that? That's because the reverse repo market is empty. There's no tightening left to be done. It's all over. All over Red Rover, baby. Pack it up. The money printers have to be turned back on. And I think what we're going to see is a combination of the money printers coming. Q4 is historically incredibly bullish. And then, to what McLovin said in the chat, Saylor's 10-year digital gold rush thesis is accelerating. Now, I do somewhat agree with this thesis. I actually wrote an entire article on this in 2021, saying that by 2030, there's going to be no Bitcoin left on exchanges. It's essentially the digital gold rush thesis, saying, look, Bitcoin's an exponential technology. Technologies get adopted in exponential waves. For the first 10 years of Bitcoin's life, everybody ignored it. Now we're past the inflection point. The next 10 years, we're going to watch institutional adoption go parabolic. This is 2021, I wrote this. And that's essentially what Saylor's thesis is, except he believes we began in 2024 with the creation of the Bitcoin ETFs, and he believes we're going to see a race to accumulate Bitcoin. And by 2034, 99% of all of the Bitcoin that will ever exist will be in circulation. But whose hands will it be sitting in? My thesis is that by 2034, there's going to be not much Bitcoin for the rest of us. I'm not going to give away exactly how much I think there will be left, but I don't think there's going to be much left. I don't know how I'm the king of FUD. I mean, America just made one of the largest confiscations in history. How is that FUD? It just happened. 127,000 coins worth $15 billion. It's massive. Not sure how that is FUD, but I do think it's huge. It's massive. It's the only reason I quickly whipped a live stream at 6:13 on a Tuesday night for you guys. I think it's fascinating. I think this is how governments will get their hands on Bitcoin. Just having a quick scan of the chat. If you guys do want to learn a little bit more about what I think the deep and the dark plan is across the West when it comes to confiscating assets, digital IDs, and all of that fun stuff, I'm going to put a link to a video I filmed on that topic somewhere around there, and I think you should check it out, especially considering we're watching DGT, Donald J. Trump, shake hands with Keir Starmer, creating a US crypto task force 3 weeks ago. Again, I don't think any of this stuff is a coincidence. With all that said, I'll encourage you guys to stay frosty, and I'll see you all in the next one.